Hi everyone, welcome to one more video and thank you so much for watching. This is my first video in this new year. I haven't made anything in like 3 weeks maybe, so I hope you missed me. I also hope you had great holidays. I hope you got a lot of nice presents. I hope you had great food. Let me know how you spent the holidays. Was it okay or was it bad? Because I know that some people hate this December, January time of the year. I had amazing holidays. I have been very happy. I have been enjoying it. So right now I am ready to continue with my videos. Today's topic is going to be freedom of speech or freedom of expression. This is a very interesting topic that's being discussed a lot nowadays in all parts of the world. In some less developed and less free countries, it's being discussed because people are sick of being controlled by the government. And in more free or more democratic societies, it is also being discussed because people are wondering, are we losing our freedoms? So in today's video, I want to discuss with you where are the limits of freedom of speech, because as we all know, there's no absolute freedom and someone has to put certain limits because our freedom ends where freedom of other person begins. But in this case, it is really tricky to decide where is the limit and till what extent are we allowed to express our opinions. Before I start with the video properly, I want to tell you that the word freedom is one of my favorite words, probably the favorite one, and every time I start learning a new language, the word freedom is one of the very first I want to learn. So I know how to say freedom in way more languages than I actually speak. That's how fascinated I am by freedom. So what is actually freedom of speech or freedom of expression? According to most definitions, the freedom of speech is your or our ability to express our ideas, views, and opinions without fear of being prosecuted or punished for doing so. This means that you should be allowed to express your opinions freely through social media, books, art, or any other way, and you shouldn't be afraid that government or someone else is going to punish you for expressing your opinion. This is also one of fundamental human rights. It is guaranteed by Article 19 of Universal Declaration of Human Rights, but as we all know, not all countries and not all societies actually respect human rights. So even though we live in 21st century, there are still many places around the world where people are not allowed to freely express their opinions because they might be punished for doing so. One of the worst things about this kind of limitations that some governments are proposing against their citizens is the fact that without freedom of speech or freedom of expression, democratic and free society cannot exist. Freedom of expression is one of the basic things that every free society has to have in order to advance. So as we all can see, when you analyze a little bit the political situation around the world, the richest and the most powerful and the countries with the best life quality are usually those where freedom of speech is respected. On the other hand, less developed ones where quality of life is not so good are usually countries where freedom of speech is limited. Speech is fundamental in democracy because it has a huge impact on quality of government. That's why it's very important for media and journalists to be able to express their opinions and their views on the government. They should be allowed to criticize the government because, after all, government is there to be controlled and criticized and not blindly respected or feared. Because, after all, they are public servants, right? Theoretically, they are. Anyway, this right is unfortunately not guaranteed in many countries. The most recent example would be Russia or Russian government, where many journalists, or actually all of them, were forbidden from using the word war when referring to what's happening in Ukraine, and instead they were forced to use special military operation when describing what's going on there. Russia is not the only country that limits freedom of expression in the media. There are many other places that are doing that: Iran, Saudi Arabia, Cuba, Myanmar, North Korea, of course, China, and so many others. And this is what makes them so different and so much less free than the Western societies. As we all, I guess that we all agree that this part of freedom of expression is very important and it should be respected everywhere. And I hope that in near future, in my lifetime, it will be possible for journalists and the media everywhere to express their opinions and views freely in every country without being afraid that they might be killed. Most of us are already used to the fact that certain countries are limiting freedom of speech for their citizens, and nobody is surprised when we hear something like that from Iran or Russia or China. But in the last few years or during the last decade, many citizens of the Western countries also started to discuss the freedom of speech in their society, which is surprising because Western democratic societies are supposed to be guaranteeing the freedom of speech to their citizens. However, many people nowadays are feeling that their freedom of expression is being limited by the government, especially on social media. And this is the part of freedom of speech that I want to dedicate more time to in today's video, because I find it very interesting and very fascinating. We have all been witnesses that in the last couple of years, a lot of people have been banned from social media for expressing their opinion. Social media especially are a revolution for both freedom of speech and censorship. Since social media became so popular, each one of us is allowed to express our opinions on basically anything. Without even thinking much or without knowing much about the topic, we are allowed to post our opinions online and to influence people that way. But at the same time, the social media companies and the government is allowed to ban us from social media for expressing our opinions that might not be okay according to them. So as we can see, social media at the same time is giving us a great power and a great freedom, but at the same time, it can be still limiting. This is a very tricky part of freedom of expression debate because everyone is born free according to Declaration of Human Rights, and everyone should have right to express their opinions. But some of those opinions might hurt certain groups of people, and therefore I believe they should be banned. One of the best examples is the fact that in many countries, mostly European countries, denying Holocaust is illegal. And it can bring you big problems if you write something like that on your social media. And the same applies to Armenian genocide. It is also banned to deny it in certain countries. In this case, I think it's completely fine to ban people who share such stupid things online, because after all, this is not an opinion, it is your lack of education. Denying something that happened not that long ago is not opinion, it's just you not being educated enough, and it's very harmful to those groups. Another situation where I believe that freedom of speech should be limited is hate speech or calling on violence against certain groups of people. For example, I'm from the Balkans, and the views on LGBTQ population here are very close-minded and stupid. Many people are so uneducated that it's crazy. So every time someone tries to organize an event to actually educate people about LGBTQ population, I see a bunch of comments on social media writing such a disgusting things, and then I'm wondering how is it possible that nobody is banning these comments and nobody is deleting them or banning those people from social media, when at the same time somewhere in the US or in Western Europe people are being banned from social media for expressing something that's not even so controversial. And here people can say whatever they want against someone who just happened to be gay, and they're not being banned from the internet. So when it comes to this, when it comes to spreading hate speech and violence, I believe that everyone who does that should be banned from social media forever, which is of course hard because you can make as many profiles on Facebook or Instagram or Twitter as much as you want, so it's hard to ban you. But I believe that the companies, social media companies, should be controlling such comments in all languages and banning those people from sharing their not even opinions, it's just pure stupidity. Someone could ask, how is it possible that free democratic societies are claiming to be tolerant towards everyone and everything, but they are banning people from expressing their opinions? This is a very interesting thing, and this is something that I also read about only recently. There is a thing called paradox of tolerance by philosopher Karl Popper. He said that if we start tolerating everyone and letting everyone say anything they want, in the end, we actually might lose all the freedom we had. Because once you leave extremists to express their opinions, because we live in a democratic society and why not, they might take over and actually ban everyone else from saying anything. This is very interesting because at first, logically thinking, I would also agree that if we live in a free society, everyone should be free. But if we let even those bad, extremist, violent people that are sharing hate speech to be free, in the end, we actually might lose our freedom. Time for freedom of speech or freedom of expression has been since 2016 till now. I'm just speaking about my lifetime. 2016, as we all know, USA got a very interesting president who was expressing his opinions on anything on Twitter, and in the end he got banned from there. And then we had pandemic where nobody was very sure what's going on because it was something new for all of us, but all of us at the same time, even though we didn't have enough information, we had an opinion and we all went online and started writing what do we think about vaccines, what do we think about lockdowns and so on. So I would say that these last 6-7 years have been revolutionary when it comes to freedom of speech, because I don't think that the amount of banned people from social media has ever been so high as now, and I believe that it's going to continue the same way in the future. And these last 7 years are also the time where I started questioning freedom of speech a little bit more, because before I was 100% for freedom. Even when someone is saying something that's not true or stupid, I was thinking, okay, let them show that they're an idiot. Who cares? They have freedom to be an idiot. What I was not thinking about is that the speaker is not the problem. Person sharing lies online or problematic views on something, that person is not the problem. The problem are listeners, people who are following those people on social media, reading all their opinions and views, and without thinking twice about it, they immediately accept those views and start sharing them. This is a very unfortunate thing, because instead of educating people how to use their brain, and instead of educating kids in school critical thinking and how to analyze informations and how to double check on everything they hear, we are limiting freedoms of other people. Of course, I agree that when someone says something stupid, they are a complete idiot, fine, we know that. But that person is not the main danger. The danger is someone who is naive enough to believe in everything they read online. The only way to solve this long term would be educating young generations how to actually filter information they are getting. And this is, I believe, mainly job of their parents, but at the same time it's government's job to kind of educate future generations, because it's much more simple to ban someone from saying something than to teach people how to filter informations. But if you want to think about long-term solutions, it is much better to educate everyone how to search for their information, what to believe and what not to believe. Another problem that I'm noticing when it comes to banning people from social media from expressing their opinions is the fact that once someone is banned, especially if it's a very popular, influential person, their supporters become very aggressive, even more aggressive than they were before, because they feel frustrated, rejected by the society, they don't feel like they're listened enough. So instead of questioning their views, they start being very aggressive toward the other groups, and this in the end ends up dividing the society, because on one side we have people who are ready to ban anyone who disagrees with them, and on the other side we have people who were banned and they became very aggressive because they're frustrated, which in a way is understandable, because if you believe in something, you want people to at least listen to you. So this is a very problematic thing nowadays, because I feel that people are kind of losing patience. They don't want to listen to others. They don't want to have civilized discussion and conversation. because honestly it is way easier to ban someone from saying something than discussing with them and trying to make them change their opinion and learn something new. But in long term way, it is way better if we all become a little bit more patient, if we start discussing with each other and talking to each other instead of just saying you are banned, you are saying stupid things and I don't want to listen to you. Another thing I believe is that we can learn a lot from everyone, even when we disagree with them, even if it's someone who has completely different views than we do. We can learn something from them, and it doesn't have to be something that we didn't know before, but someone who has different views than us can teach us why does he have those views. For example, what happens with me is that every time I meet someone who is against gay marriages or against LGBTQ population, I first hate them because I think that's so stupid, but on the other hand, when I listen to them, I'm trying to understand why do they think so, what makes them so close-minded, what shaped their views. So I believe that even when someone is saying something that we know is not true, it's important to try to understand why do they think so, because once we understand why are people close-minded and not open to new things, it will be easier for us to educate future generations how not to be close-minded and how not to have weird views on certain stuff. This is another reason why I believe that instead of immediately banning someone, it's important to listen to them, because we can really learn a lot from every single person. At least we can learn how not to be like them if it's someone very stupid. So to conclude this video, I would want to say that freedom, any kind of freedom, is very important thing to protect. Even in 21st century, even in free democratic societies, we still have a lot of things to improve and to fight for. Freedom of expression or speech is basis for every free society. It's influencing the quality of government, and eventually it is also influencing the quality of our life. So it's very important thing to be protected. Of course, it has limits, because no freedom is absolute. All freedoms have some limit. We should not be allowed to hurt other people. Hate speech, calling on violence should be banned. There is no tolerance for that. I assume that's what most people agree on. But views different than the mainstream view should sometimes be listened to instead of being banned immediately, because we can really learn a lot, even from someone who disagrees with us. On the other hand, the only long-term solution for misinformation and spreading lies online is education of new generations, because that's how we invest in future. So instead of investing so much money in stupid and useless things, I believe that we should invest way more into educating young generations how to filter informations, how to double check on everything they hear and read. And not only young generations, but all of us here, every time we see some news or every time we read something somewhere, please read it twice, double check on everything you hear, don't believe everything immediately, because I think I heard a very interesting proverb recently where you should not believe anyone, not even your own eyes. And in the world nowadays, that applies to almost everything. So please, every time you learn anything new, double check it just to know if it's true. And let me know in the comments, what do you think about this topic? What do you think about freedom of expression? How is the situation in your country? Because I know that I have subscribers from many different countries. And let me know if there is something else that I did not mention and you would like to share with the rest of us. Thank you so much for watching, and see you in my next video.